Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to give you some updates on Springfield, Ohio, and I will reveal to everyone out there in the audience what's really behind all the Haitians going into Springfield, as well as revisit some of the claims that I previously debunked in the past, because we have more information on it, and honestly, people should focus on the real issues at hand, rather than the most sensational nonsense. So we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
How many of you sitting up there tonight go into the grocery stores here in the city, Walmart here in the city, to do your shopping? I'm going to tell you, 64 years old, and I don't know what kind of label you can put on this, but I'm taking my cart down the grocery aisle, and I have 3 immigrants strapped across the aisle. Seen me coming, would not budge, wouldn't even, and I said, excuse me. Maybe they didn't understand what I was saying, but I'm sure they understood that I was trying to get through that aisle. So I have no recourse now but to bust through it. I'm not afraid to do so. You know, I would like to see them have some common respect, some common decency. Do not try to bully your way through Springfield, Ohio. It's not going to work out well.
So in my previous video on this topic, I addressed a bunch of different various concerns that average everyday citizens of Springfield, Ohio had with the influx of Haitian migrants. Now, estimates actually vary on how many Haitians have moved into this community. They go as low as 12,000, as high as 20,000. So I'm going to be using whatever number in between there because it makes no matter in terms of my point. But as you heard from that particular woman, she's having trouble with the cultural clashes and the differences in manners, which we talked about on this channel before. But we also have the issue of public resources. The mayor talks about how they're only staffed up in their police and fire department for their original population of about 60,000 people. And obviously, the influx of 15 to 20,000 ends up putting an undue burden on their school system, on their police, on their firefighters, and all of that.
And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them.
Now, of course, one of the most sensational aspects of this story has to do with them eating the dogs, them eating the cats, according to President Trump, who said that on the debate stage, according to a bunch of different people on the internet.com. But like I talked about in my previous video, the video of a black woman eating a cat is from a different part of Ohio, that arrest video that people had seen.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile, what did you? Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society, see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased.
And the fact of the matter is, she appears to be a native-born American, so not Haitian, unless she's Haitian ethnically, but yeah, not exactly what we're talking about in a different part of Ohio. And I had also talked about how this photo, that is the most iconic photo of them holding the ducks, or of this guy holding the ducks, is actually not from that part of Ohio. And it turns out that this guy might actually be a worker in Columbus, Ohio, who's picking up roadkill. So yeah, these sensationalist claims do not help at all whatsoever. Now, like I said in my previous video, the cats and dogs claim in Springfield, Ohio comes from a person who told a story, I believe, fourth hand on Facebook, and until we see any evidence of that, I don't think people should be repeating it. That being said, we do have some evidence, many different accounts on the internet.com from people in Springfield, and of course, we have a police report that has recently surfaced about people grabbing ducks from ponds or from streams, which of course is not good, but is also difference in scale in terms of what we're talking about with pets being kidnapped. So yeah, That's what we had in our previous video. That's what we talked about. But today I want to discuss why so many Haitians are actually going to Springfield, Ohio in particular, and why it's being enabled, and some of the other different issues that we didn't really address in my previous video, such as automobile accidents.
Today, the small city of Springfield, Ohio, found itself at the center of a fraught election year issue: immigration. Republican Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance claims that Haitian migrants in Springfield are, quote, draining social services and causing chaos.
So PBS actually did a 9-minute segment on the migrant issue in Columbus, Ohio, with the Haitians in particular. And what I find most fascinating about this is the fact that they unwittingly show us one of the major flaws in U.S. immigration policy.
It's striking hearing all this in the heartland of the United States, Springfield, Ohio. Springfield's a small blue-collar city with a familiar story. Much of the factory work left decades ago, and the residents followed. A community of more than 80,000 emptied out to less than 60. That is, until the last few years.
So right here, the way that PBS ends up painting this is that you're hearing all these different various Haitians all over Springfield, Ohio, and Springfield, Ohio is like many a Midwestern town in this country, in that they used to have a big factory where most people were employed in that factory. They used to be a town of around 80,000, being a small city in the United States of America. However, after the factory closed, people started leaving the town, it started to decay, and all sorts of problems started to emerge. But now we have around 20,000 new people coming in to fill those spaces that were vacated by those people who had left over the time of decades in only a few years, but they're Haitian migrants, and this is creating a bunch of different various issues in these communities.
Our churches, we see new people.
In the pews.
Yes, absolutely.
Wes Babian was the pastor at First Baptist Church for almost 20 years.
For years, we've lost people, but you hope somebody else will come and take their place. That hasn't happened here.
Until now.
Because there are folks from Haiti who are coming to church.
So right here, the pastor of this particular church says, listen, we've been suffering from declining church attendance for years and years and years, and we'd hope that new people would come in to replace those that are fleeing the church, but it just hasn't happened. That is, of course, until our saviors, the Haitian migrants, ended up showing up, and they are now replacing the previous attendees of this church, and from the church's point of view, they couldn't be happier with this scenario.
Lucas Merzus, who, among his many other jobs, mans the soundboard for Sunday services, is one of those new Haitian members.
Why Springfield?
Of all places. Merzus, with his wife and daughter, were among the first Haitian families to arrive here in 2018.
I got a decent job when I was in Haiti, and then to make a difficult decision to leave, it wasn't easy.
And in fact, the church actually also employs a Haitian migrant running the soundboard for the services, so this guy is very happy that they're here, and you're going to get a lot of perspectives from people in this PBS segment. Keep it real, they're coming at it from an angle of people that are happy about the new influx of Haitian individuals.
The reason they left is their home country is disintegrating. Protests and increasing violence in the Caribbean nation culminated in the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. Since then, the country spiraled. Armed gangs currently control 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince.
So this is something that's important that I mentioned in my previous video, but it bears repeating right here, and that is the fact that the Haitian migrants, due to the violence that they just showed you, due to the fact that their president was assassinated, due to the fact that their country is disintegrating, due to the fact that gangs have taken over, are actually not technically illegal immigrants. In fact, they have something called temporary protective status, which means that they are being housed and put up here, able to work, unlike asylum seekers, and during that time, hopefully things will get sorted out in Haiti, and they are to be sent back once that expires. However, I will point out that a bunch of these people got that temporary status before, and it was extended due to gang violence, so it's probably going to be very difficult, especially for a Harris administration, if she wins, for that status to be revoked. Maybe the evil orange man will revoke that status, but the fact of the matter is Haiti is chaotic, and we all understand that if you lived in a country like that, you would want to get out of Dodge immediately. And this is the issue that I really want to emphasize for everybody out there in my audience. It's not necessarily the people. Yes, there are problems with the behaviors of Haitian people in Springfield, Ohio that can be addressed, but it is in fact the system that incentivizes them to come to the United States of America that gives them this protective status and doesn't appear to be working to settle them in countries around the region or in Latin America, because remember, a lot of them did actually come through the border, and that is creating issues for the American people because, again, 700,000 new people just from one country is kind of a big issue. But again, they are not technically illegal migrants at this moment in time. We need to make sure that that is known, but I want to talk about why they're going to Springfield in particular, not why they're going to the United States of America, because obviously if you're offering them a temporary protective status, they're going to come to the United States of America.
Mirzu says he came to Springfield for the same reason most Haitians did. He heard that housing was cheap and jobs were plentiful.
It started slowly. We had an application pool that was a little bit different.
People coming to work here.
People looking for jobs. What he's welding here again are welded axle components.
Jamie McGregor is the CEO of McGregor Metal, which makes welded parts for the auto and farm industries. Right now, about 10% of his workforce is Haitian, over 30 employees.
I wish I had 30 more. Our Haitian associates come to work every day. They don't have a drug problem. They'll stay at their machine. They'll achieve their numbers. They are here to work. And so in general, that's a stark difference from what we're used to in our community.
So the CEO of McGregor Metal right there inadvertently just told you the exact reason so many Americans have such big problems with U.S. immigration policy, because while he's singing the praises of the new Haitian worker that has come into his factory, he is also denigrating the earlier residents, the people that were there before in Springfield, Ohio, as unreliable drug addicts that don't produce what he needs them to produce. And the fact of the matter is, our immigration policy incentivizes CEOs like this to hire migrants that will work for less in order to undercut the American worker, and this is the underlying tension that is going on all over Springfield, Ohio. Now, there are additional things that I will get into in a moment, but again, imagine you are a resident of Springfield. You suffered through decades of your factories, just like this one closing. You all of a sudden hear news about factories opening up again. You think your town is going to be revitalized. But not only do a portion of the jobs not go to the residents who, of course, believe that they should have those jobs, they go to foreigners, but then the CEO of the company says, well, these guys aren't drug addicts, they can actually show up on time, they're not idiots, and then the part that he didn't say is they're willing to work for significantly less money by comparison, because remember, they're coming from one of the poorest countries, if not the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, so the American wage that they're getting is significantly higher, and the fact that they're supposed to go back means that they're probably not thinking long-term in terms of I need to save up to buy a house or whatever, so they're working on a completely different incentive structure from you, and they appear to be getting an advantage. And by the way, we've actually seen this bearing out in larger economic trends in the charts, which show the difference between US-born workers getting jobs in America under the Biden economy versus foreign workers getting jobs, or foreign-born workers getting jobs under that Biden economy. And what you end up finding out is that disproportionately, foreign-born workers are benefiting from the current economy at the same time that the public resources that Americans are supposed to rely on are being overly strained, at the same time that we see stories of classrooms exploding in size in order to cater to these children, at the same time that we see stories like out of Massachusetts, where American kids are forced to walk to school while migrants get free busing from the state.
McGregor acknowledges the sudden arrival of so many new immigrants is a challenge on multiple fronts, but he believes this is partly how the industrial Midwest can regrow.
We want more jobs in our community. And in order to fill those jobs, some jobs need to be people who are not originally from here.
So right there, the CEO says it straight up. He's like, listen, if you want industry to come back to your small town, if you want your town to be revitalized, if you want the more jobs that you're asking for to actually come to fruition, then what you got to deal with is that those jobs, and then he catches himself and says, some of those jobs will have to be filled by non-American born workers. So the jobs come back to your community, they don't get outsourced anymore, but the labor gets brought in from the third world in order to fill those jobs, so you still end up destitute, but it's okay because you're a drug addict that doesn't show up on time and can't hit your numbers. And that's the crazy thing about this, because we've seen by the data that when these factories close, or in towns where these factories close, addiction rates go up dramatically. So yeah, in part, the people that are stuck there that are dying these deaths of despair are doing so because they feel like they've lost any opportunity for economic growth. Then you dangle that opportunity for their town to be revitalized in front of their face, only for you to say that those jobs aren't for you, they're for these new people who are willing to work for less money than you are.
There's things in the last 5 years that have really changed and has been a forward improvement for Springfield, but this is taxing the resources of the city. Well, afterwards,
Springfield's mayor, Rob Rue, says he was cautiously optimistic when the first Haitians settled in town, but then their numbers quickly rose. The city estimates 12 to 15,000 Haitians are here now.
the infrastructure of the city, our safety forces, our hospitals, our schools. Springfield is a close community and has a big heart, but at the same point, we've had this influx that has taxed all these services.
The number of students needing English language help has quadrupled in 5 years. Translators at the local health center cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
So after they tell you that the Haitians are saving this town completely, and the mayor talks about all the good things related to this, and the McGregor CEO talks about how these Haitians are so much better than those dirty drug-addicted Americans, you end up going to the high school, and they start to give you a little bit of a taste of the cost of these migrants, which happens to be translation services that cost over $100,000 per translator. And of course, they're in more demand now because there's so many more non-English speaking students. And now you have to run courses for them, again, while they're temporary guests in the United States of America, or allegedly temporary guests in the United States of America.
And last year was the busiest year on record for the fire department. But it seemed that for the community at large, the increase in immigration and its stresses largely flew under the radar.
A lot of that changed last August. It was the very first day of school, and a school bus full of kids was coming down this road. A driver coming in the other direction came around that bend, said he was blinded by the sun. He clipped the bus, and the bus ended up in this ditch.
We begin with breaking news. Right now, multiple law enforcement agencies are on the scene of a deadly school bus crash.
Dozens of children were injured, and 11-year-old Aiden Clark died. When the driver was revealed to be a Haitian immigrant without a U.S. license, things erupted.
So this is one of the other issues that needs to be brought up, and that is the fact that the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, are not driving particularly well. In fact, accidents are up dramatically. That happens to be one of the things that the firefighters who also do EMS services are responding to. And in that particular incident, this guy ended up clipping a bus. And what makes matters worse is that he didn't even have a driver's license.
I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone.
Now look, I'm sure if you guys are familiar with the story, then you probably know the update, which is the father recently had a press conference where he said he wished his son was killed by a white man and not a Haitian migrant. And people were like, this is insane. Like, what level of leftism has invaded this person's brain? However, I do want to just say that what we're dealing with right now is a grieving father, somebody who doesn't want to see their kid used as a political pawn.
The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces.
And on top of that, maybe he just doesn't want to be reminded about the death of his kid over and over again. So while I find those statements to be ridiculous, I understand where they're coming from, which is a grieving father, somebody who lost an 11-year-old. So I'm willing to grant him some grace and not attack him on that. But the fact of the matter is, his wishes don't actually erase the problems in Springfield, Ohio, and the problems in terms of car accidents with these Haitians. In fact, there's so many different reports of them driving into buildings, driving into houses, and all of that. And again, there's something to be said for if you're a guest in this country, in the United States of America, it should be a basic thing that you need to do, which is get a damn driver's license before you get behind the wheel of the car. Why should the residents of Springfield, Ohio have to deal with all these different various car accidents, all these different various problems associated with the car accidents, which is an increase in auto insurance premiums because these people don't have insurance themselves, which means if they come into contact with somebody else, their insurance is going to end up paying for that. And to me, that's just not fair. It's not sensible. It's not reasonable. And you also should be able to demand some level of assimilation from people who are guests in your country. I talked about this in my video before. It would be fine if you had a friend and their house burned down and you decided to take them in, but if you came out of your bedroom in the morning and your friend was butt-ass naked right in front of you and you told them to put clothes on and they're like, well, no, that's part of my culture, that's just what I do, you would throw that person out of the house. They have to conform to your rules, your roof, your rules. Pretty simple scenario. And I think that is a simple ask that should be applied to these Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, because again, they are here as guests because we are protecting them from the violence that is happening in their own country.
The majority of the Haitians here are low skilled and they're illiterate.
I want to know who's busing them in, who's responsible for that, and who can stop them from coming.
Our concerns don't have anything to do with racism. They have to do with lack of affordable housing.
So another issue, aside from the multiple different various instances of car accidents and unlicensed driving, uninsured driving, is the issue of affordable housing. Now, I've seen some lefties hand wave this issue away and say, hey, look, there happens to be an affordability crisis everywhere in this country, so the people in Springfield, Ohio need to shut up. But the thing is, this affordability issue has everything to do with the Haitian migrant population, because remember, they were declining in population, meaning more people were moving out than moving in. Then all of a sudden, not a couple of thousand people moved in, but 15 to 20,000 people moved in. Again, illegal migrants that are taking jobs that Americans thought they were going to be able to get. And now they're driving up the price of housing as they're undercutting these people in terms of labor in the workforce. That is a big issue. And if you want to know why Americans don't like immigration policy in this country, it's because we tend to cater to them rather than us as citizens. And again, it has nothing to do with race. We talk about this all the time when it comes to Latino migrants. I happen to be half Latino. I have nothing against Latinos or anything of the sort. But the fact of the matter is, any race of American should be put forward first before somebody who just got here who is not a citizen of this country. But that's not what's happening right now. And they just keep getting told to suck it up as they get insulted as a bunch of drug addicts who have no value, even though this is the community that they built.
But with so many new arrivals, he says, the city needs help bolstering basic infrastructure.
We say we need help, basically for translation services and safety forces. That's what we're looking at. Our hospitals need reinforcement.
In the meantime, local nonprofits like St. Vincent de Paul have stepped in.
Now, of course, the mayor ends up wrapping up by saying, hey, look, I share all your concerns. I'm definitely worried about it and all that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the mayor was connected to these different factories and different employers that are hiring the Haitians. And that's why he signed this contract right here against the citizens to aid the Haitians above all. And he asked for more resources and whatnot for the Haitians, which again, I will remind you that you have Americans complaining in these meetings that they do not have access to medical services because Haitians are lined up out the door. And of course, the nonprofit industrial complex ends up showing up to aid the Haitians, and the regular average citizen feels like they're totally getting screwed over. So again, while everyone wants to focus on the least verified reports, something that has not been proven to even have happened once in Springfield, Ohio, which is the eating the dogs, the eating the cats, all this other stuff is going on that's absolutely crucial, and it is very illustrative of the issue that most Americans have, not just with illegal immigration and them being prioritized over the citizen, but even forms of legal immigration. Because again, the factory owner made it 100% clear he wants to hire Haitians, foreigners, not Americans, because he doesn't think anything of Americans and he knows he can get away with paying them less. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the real issues with the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. Till next time.